So we're here with Mr. Kale Panoho. Hey Kale. From New Zealand, down here in Los Angeles for Johnny's Mastermind event. And also with my buddy John Maxim, who lives out here in LA. And so these two fine gentlemen are my buddies and some of our original students and members of the Accelerator program that we started up. You know, they were one of the first 10 beta program users, and it's been amazing to see their journey over the last, about 2 years since then?
Yeah, almost 2 and a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so like 24 months and some change, right?
Yeah.
And you know, these guys have, as you'll learn, achieved some amazing things during that time without, slacking in terms of wellness and health and, making time for life. It just adds some flavor. One cut. Look who just walked in.
Another six-figure agency grad.
The teenage phenom himself.
You guys good?
You get punched today?
No, not today.
Oh, okay. I'm kidding. All right. So yeah, over the last 2 years and a bit more, these guys have partnered up and built, I would say one of the leading marketing agencies in the world. They've been featured all over the internet, Forbes, Influensive. We got alarms. It's cool. Inc. Everywhere. You name it. These guys are making an amazing impact in the world, and it's awesome to see. And so we wanted to catch up with them and hear about their journey and see what value they had to share. So guys, where were you guys at back those 20-something months ago when you're just getting started with the program? What were you guys doing? Where were you guys at in terms of one business and also like your lifestyle?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. For me, pre-program and pre-six-figure agency accelerator, I was doing roughly like 8K, and it would have been USD month on month, and it was still pretty tough. It was enough to make a living, and like things were good, but most of it for me was I was pretty helter-skelter throughout my day. Like I was sporadic. I'd wake up, I'd try and do sales, I'd try and do emails. I was writing and doing a lot of the work myself. And the biggest thing too, I was never really secure on having like a steady income, which was like the scary part for me. So I got a little worried about that. And for me, most of it was like, cool, will the client stay on, will they not? And most of that performance stuff was the biggest, scariest part for me. So that was pre-6FAA, and I'll let Johnny speak to where he was.
Yeah, so I was founding a tech company, and I was doing about $5,500 per month with University of Delaware, and we didn't really have a long contract with them, so the fear was that the contract would expire and they would quit. And so when I got into the program, it was a big squeeze for me because I was investing so much money in my tech startup, and I had to invest in 6FAA. But once I got into the program, made some pretty pivotal changes, and I think we can speak to that in a little bit here.
Awesome. All right, got it. So, you guys were both, you had a few clients, you had some revenue. Were you pretty much just operating like one-man shows, more or less, or did you have a small team, or what did that look like?
Yeah, for me it was, I had one VA, and that was it. And they were sort of doing sporadic tasks that I'd sort of allocate them, but I wasn't using them very effectively, and like I maintained a virtual assistant for the sake of having one almost, as opposed to someone who was executing, doing tasks and setting up sort of high priority time. For me, it was, oh man, I can't finish this data entry task, I need them to do it.
Yeah, for myself, I just had an intern helping me, and we didn't have any systems for delivering stuff. Like I remember this one content calendar for a social media plan, went through like hundreds of revisions, client getting in screaming about every post. And the intern really wasn't qualified to be writing that level of content. But that's all the support that I had because I was so busy. I was stretched so thin with the whole campaign itself. It was a multi-channel marketing campaign as well as my other startup. And these are all conflicting priorities that spread me really thin, caused a lot of stress, which led to anxiety, and even at one point like a spastic anxiety attack. So that was pretty symbolic of where I was at that stage, and that mounted with the fact that I wasn't making money on the $6K in revenue that I had, made it even more frustrating.
Got it. Okay. And so, I mean, since the program, I mean, where are you guys at now? And then we'll dive into, you know, some of the kind of pivotal changes that you made. But I mean, tell us where you're at today and some exciting things going on, right?
Well, you know, ramping up after that, me and Kale both using the sales script from the program and a little bit of negative reverse selling, we closed 16K contracts, and then there was another 9K in deals. So as a partnership, we closed like $20,000, $30,000 more dollars in the next few months. So we got to the 6-figure mark about end of month 2, and then it flattened out a little bit and then grew a little bit more. And throughout the years since then, we got up to 25K, back down to 15, up to 40, and then soon up to 60, and we were stuck at 65, 70 for a while. But then we had a breakout client which brought us up to about 350K a month in revenue. Since then, it was a really tough campaign to roll out, but we were able to, you know, maximize it and have high impact for the client. And now they've upgraded to about $550,000 a month. And that was a result of a lot of the sales tactics that we learned, a lot of the systems and architecture for the program that helped us deliver scalable campaigns, because it wasn't any different than any other campaign we've done. It just had a much larger media buy. So that increased our markup as well as the overall revenue.
Yeah, and the things I want to speak to about that is that the revenue was like a great asset for what we had, and obviously perfect to have capital, but the thing for me was the alleviation of sort of fear of where our next check was coming from month to month, and the systems around that. So for me, it was a sense of my expenditure's not too high, but it's at least having money to know that I can start to fall back. Like if things do go badly now, like I know I can say, cool, I can rebuild, but I also had started creating a savings, right? That those sort of checkpoints when you're starting 16, 30, and now even up to that sort of 350 mark, you have extra capital. You can take times if things go badly, you've got money in the bank. And I think for me, what happened with 6-figure Agency Accelerator is it taught me systems to ability to scale, but also remove the low value tasks from my time. And that's those low ROI things like planning a content calendar. I'm not that great at it, but I am pretty good at executing sort of growth hacks. And I got to spend my time on things I like, but also executing high SKU sales. Like for us to spend the time on the deal for TikTok, I think for us it was the ability to actually focus on doing that and then actually have those low tasks removed. So the alleviation of fear and then actually getting my own time back to relax and focus on the things that I really enjoy was a really, really big thing.
Awesome. That's crazy, right? I mean, you know, you both started out with like a few $1,000 and now like multiple 6 figures a month. I mean, that's crazy in terms of business growth in like 2 years, right? And Johnny and I quit our jobs within a few months of each other. And, you know, we were both super scared and super nervous, right, about that transition. But, you know, we both just committed and we haven't given up. And, you know, look what happens, right? You guys, I bet you're glad, you know, maybe you wish you would have quit sooner. I know I do sometimes, right? But, so, you know, that's amazing to see that and see the growth. And I mean, on the other side of that, like what kind of, you know, you were talking about having panic attacks before, you know, overworking, burning out, right? So, I mean, being able to reach those numbers are awesome, but what's the impact it's had on your guys' day-to-day life and, you know, overall outlook on life, right?
I can jump in on this. I mean, I think the thing that you're looking at right now is that like I'm actually here in LA, right? Like I live in Dunedin, New Zealand, which is a 13-hour flight. Well, actually like 15 hours to get directly back to home, and it's a pain in the ass. But
it's far.
Yeah, the thing is like I now have the free time. 2 weeks ago I was in the Gold Coast of Australia, which is just on Queensland, and I was able to take a holiday then. I'm here now, and I've just been away for another week for a retreat. So I think the lifestyle stuff is one, like huge. Vacations are pretty big. The second part is like I get to spend my time around people like John, like yourself, and have the ability to actually be physically with these people. It's been massive, right? Because the key insight is like, yes, I have more money, yes, I have more time, but like I'm getting to learn and spend time with people that I really care about, and like the relationships for me and having the ability to grow and learn from these people are like the biggest assets in my mind, and I get to spend more time doing that. So it's been a huge outcome for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I remember back when I was looking to join the program, one, I was concerned about the cost because I would be looking at $3,000 when I only had about $1,000 in the bank. So I asked my dad for a loan, and he was going to do it for me. And I got lucky to close a $2,000 deal and have enough to buy the program. But that was the scale I was thinking at, which is very small. And now having gone through the program, it one teaches you to have really strong accountability partners, like through the mentors in the program and through your partners like Kale, and that enforced a structure and a rigor that has helped me live a better lifestyle just outside of all the revenue. I was now more disciplined, which made me happier in my life because I had rigor and I had structure, which gave me freedom for the creative things that I like. So design, snowboarding, things like that. So now, at this point, I mean, I've moved to Los Angeles, bought my dream car, I have a convertible. We were just driving around LA, having fun, blasting music. It's all indicative of a reward for the work that we've done, but also for the foundation that we've built. And now, at this point, we're just reinvesting. We're looking at several startups, e-com companies, tech companies, and so on. So we're now no longer thinking about something small, like a few $1,000s in sales, but now we're looking at investing, which we're on the other side of the table now, so that's a huge, huge change.
Beautiful, awesome. And yeah, I mean, that's such, I mean, congrats, and it's great to hear that and see that, huge transformations and growth for you guys. And I mean, what do you feel like were some of the specific things that had to change for you guys that the program prompted, right, to kind of bridge the gap on where you're at now versus where you started?
Yeah, I think especially for me, the mindset one around selling, the ability to actually have a tactical sales script that takes you from literally hopping on the phone to closing the end point of the game of the sales was really huge. The other one was looking at in terms of low ROI tasks. So for me, previously, like I'm trying to understand time and what my time's worth. If I can spend, say, getting someone else to do a task for me that generates maybe $20 in revenue, it makes sense to hire someone who cost me maybe $10 an hour, right? And I take the profit on top as opposed to trying to do that myself. And the key thing that I learned with those systems is like, okay, cool, how to measure your time effectively using apps, using automation, and then using skills around hiring the right people, where to find those right people, and how to hire them, so that you can free yourself up to focus on the high ROI tasks. Getting yourself to a point where you're doing, okay, maybe it's $500 an hour. No one else can actually sell this client. No one else can maybe actually do the task that I'm doing, which is like growth campaigns or growth hacking and those types of things. And so for me, I think that they're having a rigid system to say, cool, block your time out, learn how to sell, here's what you need to do, and then a roadmap for how to do each of those things, served you on a really easy to follow platter, like, hey, do X, Y, and Z, which I picked up in each of the modules, was some of the really big changes for me, and it's been flow-on effect since.
Yeah, I would say the dollar per hour value buckets, the capture box, task prioritization and strategy, sales script, sales process from the program set a foundation for a whole different way of selling. Systems and processes, documenting things, making videos, training videos for the team members, enabling us to delegate. At this point, we have 20 employees on the team, like 15 full-time and like 5 part-timers, and none of the heavy lifting is done by us anymore. So, well, at least not much of it. Definitely nothing compared to what it was before. So having the accountability to say, no, you need to delegate that, was a huge value because I wouldn't have otherwise delegated it without somebody showing me, leading me how to delegate it. So that was a huge change for us because we were no longer just cranking all the wrenches ourselves and doing all the dirty work. We could now run a much larger campaign because we have basically way more people to do it. We have way more of our own hours, way more of their hours.
Awesome. Yeah, man, that's amazing. So, got it. And the processes around those things, you know, it's huge, and you guys are just a living proof of it works, right? In terms of transitioning from like daily operator to like business owner, right? So, I mean, what are you guys doing on like a day-to-day basis now in the business? And like, what does that look like? And how has the program contributed to getting you there?
Yeah, for the most part for me, I mean, I can walk through pretty much closely. It's given me time in the morning to figure out what it is that I prioritize that clears up my day. So I can wake up, and this is most days for me, I'll meditate, I'll journal, and then I'll spend maybe 10 to 20 minutes reading. From that point there, I'm then able to sort of, if I want to exercise, I'll go train. But for the most part, what I'll do is I'll get a message via Slack, which is handled by a VA of mine. And with that there, she will prioritize each of the tasks that I need to do each day that I've given her the day before. But she'll also handle the inbound emails that I've got and say, cool, these are the ones you need to handle based on time and their priority of urgency. And then I'll look at that, go through, and then I'll set and focus and act on those 3 tasks. And then I'll try and wrap my day up towards that time. So I've got a lot of free time to sort of devote to the things that I want from there. And I picked up a few things around like machine learning, a couple of new languages, trying to learn those. So that's usually sort of what a day looks like. And then I'll be at any actually meetings or calls where I need to link up with Johnny.
And most of my days are spent doing sales. This is the work that I enjoy most. So I take a lot of sales calls, I go meet people in person, and there's not a lot of pressure to close new deals when we have a lot of inbound from a lot of good referrals, and that allows us to work on deals that are super interesting to me. So, you know, we just left a meeting today where we're looking at investing in a tech platform, and that's a lot more interesting to me than taking a cold call. So now I'm just really investing in more strategic level sales stuff, partnerships, joint ventures, things like that. That's more enjoyable. I'm a people person, I enjoy that more.
Awesome. Cool, awesome. Well, and I mean, what sort of like unexpected experiences have been, you know, come up over the past like 2-year journey or so, right? Like share some kind of things you didn't expect but have been really rewarding and like fulfilling for you guys.
Shit, where to start? I mean, there's definitely, like, from what I'm saying now too, there's definitely setbacks and failures where we've had shitty clients and we've had to learn how to deal with that. A really good example is a recent client where we struggled a lot with delivering an outcome. They were very demanding. But for the most part, the things that we've been able to take away as an agency and as business partners is that we always want to consistently take the high road. And whether that's us losing money or even, you know, losing more time, some of the staff have had to work over hours and they've just been underserved. Like the things that have taught me, one, like discipline, perseverance, and then I think the other stuff coming out of that is knowing that it's not always going to be rosy, but for the most part, I can keep a lot of my time that I'm quite happy with, and for like almost the majority of the time, my life's pretty fucking exciting. Like I've been to LA twice, I've traveled a lot of the world, I was in Europe for 7 weeks last year, and like my lifestyle, I can afford to do those things. And the thing is, I'm 28. I don't think too many people at my age get the opportunities that I've had, and I've been able to sort of see that change in the last 2 years, and it is largely thanks to the program, but also thanks to Johnny and being around good people. So for me, those have been some of the key things that have come out of it.
Yeah, I'd say there's so many serendipitous moments in a journey like this, and the ones I really relish are the ones that were actually the hardest, because I feel like that's where it tested my strength and then made me confide more in myself. You know, we had the TikTok, the big client, we failed that campaign for the full 4 weeks. It asked for a 1-week extension, and on day 31, we got then 18,000 app downloads compared to the 500 we got over the 4 weeks before. We spent $46,000 of the budget and wasted it. And that's one of my favorite stories to tell. That's something serendipitous, if you ask me, even though it seemed like we were all, banned to hell, we actually pulled through, and that's really exciting for me. And on the flip side of all those negative stories, like the anxiety attacks and stuff, there's huge positives. We hosted this retreat for 22 people in Temecula in a mansion, a French Riviera mansion, and had these amazing meditation experiences, sound baths. Like, it felt like a completely luxury experience that just kind of happened. It just kind of fell in our lap. And so there's a lot of things that kind of manifest out of your vision and your dream as you start to see success that will just make your lifestyle beautiful once you really set up those foundations for success in the company. And even today, it's a Monday, and we've only worked 1 hour today. So I consider that a success, and that's really gratifying without guilt to be able to take a 1 hour a day, whereas before I would have a lot of anxiety over that.
Yeah, and I think actually one thing I want to add is that for the most part, when I've seen most of these videos, and I was in the position of someone like when the squeeze was difficult, like to pay $3,000 for the course, or initially whatever the founding fee was. A lot of this seemed quite surreal. Like, you're seeing people who are successful, they've made it, and it's hard to believe or whether or not they're telling the truth. I think the biggest part for me getting involved in doing this stuff is that I changed my mindset around money and looked at, if I was going to level up my career, most people will pay for an MBA or some form of extra education via university. And I think the stuff around here is that the experiences that we've learned and shared is that there's more than an MBA worth in there. And the education, the cost of taking a course like this, or doing something similar to what we've done, is that if you're okay with spending money and not a huge amount to gain some extra skills, look at it as an extra payment for your tuition to get to be a better person, to have a better lifestyle, because essentially that's what we're doing. And the failings and the learnings and the monies that we have lost to get to this point.
All right, so yeah, I mean, looking back when you guys were about to get started, I mean, what were some hesitations that you had around joining a program like this, and talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess 3K was a shitload of money, right? Like, I think, or it might have been, I can't remember the exact figure, but 5K, I think. But for me, it was in USD as well. So at the time, it was a stretch. Like, I wasn't making enough money to probably cover it initially all up front. And I had to be very strategic about the way that I paid it. And I think you guys were pretty good for that front. But at that point in time, it was a huge ask, and it's hard to take a gamble on something that you don't know that works. So I had to talk to, one, the people that I trusted, but two, I had to change my mindset on it. And the big thing for me was that if I was to pay extra tuition to go back to university or to grab another course that's like academically proven, that's an investment on me. And it's something that if I was to get an MBA, I'm looking at anywhere from 100K. So I thought, maybe I need to make a transition and think, okay, if I can spend this money on something that can at least generate profits for me directly, as opposed to getting another salary job or leveling up and maybe getting my career a bit further, I think it might be worth it. And that shift initially for me was what allowed me to sort of say, okay, cool, I'm happy to do this and put the money in. But again, like, I think retrospectively, anyone of the people who were looking at this too, you've seen the highlight reel, but for the most part, it was scary, I was nervous, I didn't want to fucking spend the money, and it was hard to stomach at the time. But ultimately, getting the right advice and then changing my mindset around that was the part that sort of put me on the foot forward to get started.
Yeah, I would say my biggest hesitations were, one, is the program going to work, right? Are the people trustworthy who are running it? Thankfully, I've known Matt my whole life, so that was a huge indicator of his honesty around, what was contained within it. But two, the financial investment. I mean, like I said, I got a loan from my dad for a few $1,000s. Like, that shows that I was pretty broke, so it was a huge leap there. And then the third thing was I was running another company, so I was torn for my time. Was I just going to abandon that company? And so, the doubts about the program's potential, combined with the financial costs, combined with how am I going to be able to execute this properly with these prior commitments. And I hadn't bought any coaching or any kind of like one-to-one leveling up type of service. And so I was hesitant, but I was like, you know what, I need to give this a shot. You know, even Michael Jordan has a coach, right? Like LeBron has a coach. They have a coach because you can't do it all on your own. And that was my thinking going into it. And so I took a leap. I talked to people who had been in the program before. We each did it separately because we thought it was that powerful. And we saw Matt's business. He was doing $25K at the time per month, and that had grown from like $10K in just a couple months, all based around these systems. And I had been asking about these systems for forever. And finally, I got access to this program, and I knew I had to do it. And so I put it on credit. I gave it a try, and I promised myself that if I was going to invest in this, I was going to invest in it 95% or more. So I would have to apply the program 95% accurately to the books. And I did. I followed it bit by bit, like almost exactly to the T. And I think that is what set the foundation, the mental foundation for real scale, because I built a bunch of systems and started executing them, and they started working. Even though we made the business pivot 3 times between now and then, the systems and the architecture they all stood true, right? They all served the foundation the whole time. So now looking back, if I was somebody who's considering the program, I would say I can't risk not buying this program. I can't risk going on working 80-hour weeks and having anxiety attacks, because that's going to bring me down faster than the financial sacrifice, whether I need to get financing from my dad or financing from some third party. It's more powerful than the $100,000 MBA that I have, because that was built on brands like Frito-Lay and Procter & Gamble, all of these old school marketing strategies, these old media.
Sorry, I begged on your MBA, yeah.
But you know, I go and spend $3,000 or $5,000 on this program, and I built a real business in a couple of years, like the time it took me to get the MBA. So I think that's pretty indicative. And if you're still having hesitations at this point, it's not a matter of money. It's a matter of whether you think you can deliver on it. And so, you know, that's just a personal commitment thing. And if you can't commit to it, don't do it. But if you can, it's worth your money.
Awesome, man. Well, and I mean, you know, looking back, when you were just getting started, is there any sort of, like, what's the most important lesson that you would share with Kale and Johnny back in time a little bit, right? What would be having been through this experience, what would that be?
I think the biggest one, and this is maybe might be more personal, but at this time too, I think I may have been in a full-time job, or it might have been a transitioning out of it, but I think the thing for me was, don't be afraid to try this stuff, and don't be afraid to fail in front of your peers. One of the bigger hesitations for me too was telling people that, like, I wanted to follow my own career path or start my own agency. And what New Zealand is what we call tall poppy syndrome. Like, I was afraid that if I'd said this to other people, I was like essentially ostracizing myself in a pretty strange way. And so I would say, don't worry about what other people think. And the last part too was that money is always attainable, and if there's any time and point and risk in your life, it's in between this 0 to 35. For the most part, like, I can still screw up and fuck up in a massive way and restart again and get a completely solid job and still be financially safe by the time I retire. And changing my mindset to think, so, okay, cool, look, you can fuck up, you can lose money, and you can still start all over again and do this. Even by the time you've still got another like 7 to 10 years to do it, now's the best time to take these risks. So for me, that's the stuff I would have gone back and say, this is what you need to do, this is why you want to do it, and the last part would be, stop fucking around. Like, I was, every day I thought I was being productive, but I was essentially being busy for the sake of being busy. And that there is like the biggest killer of time, and your thoughts and energy, because if you want to look busy for other people, it doesn't serve anything but looking busy for other people, right? And you're not going to get any of the results you need. So that's what I would have shared, and that's probably what it would have been. And trusting other people more too. Like, Johnny's recommendation was the reason I joined and jumped into the course, especially the same as yours. But still at the time I was hesitant, so I probably would have said be able to trust the people that you like.
Yeah, I think looking at all of the programs out there, the people who always fail when they go through a new course or a new coaching platform or any kind of educational program are the ones who don't connect with the mentors in the program. So you're paying this mentor to help you. Why not get close with him? I mean, this is your role model. You want to do what he wants to do. So I connected with the mentors in the program. I leveraged everyone. I joined all of the calls, and that's just, it's like easy access to the people who can give you the keys. So, I think it's hugely underrated to leverage the resources that come in a program like that. Budding agency entrepreneur is don't spread yourself thin. Don't work too many hours, offer too many services, have too many businesses, invest in too much marketing or whatever that OpEx and that CapEx looks like for you. Don't spread yourself thin. In my case, I had to quit my other company and close that down in order to really make a success out of this one. And I also had to give my team my work, so I wasn't personally spread thin. And I had to narrow my product set. So just don't spread yourself thin. Focus. And a program like this is very dense, which is great because that allows you to just focus on these strict set tasks and not have all the other marketing tactics that are just distractions or services that you offer, tangential clients, things like that. So really just focus on focus, and that program that's the backbone of the program is focus.
Awesome. Beautiful. And how can we, everyone listening, how can we follow along with you guys, get to know you guys, maybe work with you guys, right? So direct the people to where we can find you online.
Yeah, first one, go follow K&J Growth on Instagram. We're not too hard to find, so just type in that name, K&J Growth. The other one that's on Instagram. You can find us both on LinkedIn. I know for me it's just Kale Panaho, and the other one I'm pretty good at getting back to people on is LinkedIn. So if you want to try and connect with me there, add a note, tell me where you found me, and I'll jump on there.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TCG_style, Facebook, Jonathan.Maxim. We've offered so many free coaching calls, mentorship calls, internships, and partnerships. A lot of people who came out of the Agency Accelerator, we've hooked them up through gigs through our work, so don't feel bad to reach out or just follow along for the journey. We offer a lot of free resources like a guide on how to hack LinkedIn or a guide on how to make viral videos on TikTok. So check them out. If you want to reach out, we'll be happy to chat with you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been awesome to see you guys start as just, kind of a few man shops and really build a killer business that's, working with some of the biggest brands in the world, right? Powered by some of the smartest minds in the world, and they're sending many of their resources your way. So that's a testament to you guys and your discipline and talent. And so, it's been awesome to witness the journey, and thanks so much, and can't wait to see, where we're at in the next few months. All right, K&J, Johnny and Kale, peace.